guys, welcome to Patriot Muscle Health, where we define ourselves not only physically by being strong, but we also take a look at what it takes to be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually strong as well. I'm so excited to have our guest with us today, Convention of States in North Carolina. I will a little bit that this is exactly how I got started in my Patriot movement in the end of 2020. Roger Corrier is on this call tonight. And he was instrumental in getting me started with COS. And so I will introduce Paul after I speak about how I got started, and then we'll hear from Joseph in his 1776 minutes. And when I would go to these Convention of States meetings, he would always talk at the beginning, and they were always very enchanting, and it just made you feel so patriotic and love your country. And so I wanted him to have his moment on this call tonight as well. So as we all know, at the end of 2020 was a little bit rough for us all. And so I ended up going to a GOP meeting, and that's where Roger met me. And he did a little bit of investigative work and found out where I worked and emailed me. And I said, well, here's my personal information. Why don't we connect that way? And I just loved what he was trying to do. And he explained what Convention of States was and how it dealt with Article 5 of the Constitution, and how we, as we the people, can hold a Convention of States in order to ratify the Constitution. And there are a lot of rumors out there that says, that they're afraid of a runaway convention, and they'll take our Second Amendment, and that's simply not true. And so I'm going to have Roger and Susan talk a little bit more about that when they get into their spiel about how that probably could not happen. But basically what the resolution is on the table is federal spending, because we all know that the government is spending money out of control. I mean, we're sending $40 billion to the Ukraine when we have our own problems in our country that we need to be working on. They also deal with federal overreach. And so if you, like myself, advocate for health and wellness, and you don't need to go to the doctor a lot, I don't think that it should be mandated that you have to do certain things, especially if you don't ever get sick and you live a healthy lifestyle. And then the last thing that is on the table is term limits. And I think regardless of what position you are in, if 8 years is good enough for the president, it should be good enough for everybody else. So, whether it's 2 years or 4 years or 8 years, do your time as service to the country, and then you exit and you go back to doing your regular job. And that's how our government used to be. And so to make a long story short, got involved with Convention of States, and then it sparked me to get even more involved with Take Back Our Schools and Audit Force and Guilford Patriots. And I just wanted to spread awareness about Convention of States, because we do need petition signers. We do need people at the grassroots level that are doing something on the district level and the state level, so that we can get 34 states to agree to hold a Convention of States. So Paul, if you want to tell us a little bit about you and what you're running for.
My name is Paul Schumacher. I'm running for North Carolina State Senate, District 28, basically the city of Greensboro. I am running for this position because of Convention of States. I have been signing up for Convention of States since I lived in Vermont 14, 15 years ago. I heard about it first on Mark Levin's show, and it makes sense. Our Constitution is a pretty amazing thing. It was written and has been defended by men who, inspired by God, did such an amazing job that we carved their face in the mountains in the mountains in South Dakota. It is basically the root of the tree of liberty that has been watered by patriotic men and women with their blood, sweat, and tears for over a century now. And that Constitution basically says what the government can and cannot do. Our government has gone out of control. They have usurped power from the people and taken it for themselves. The things that the Constitution says that they are able to do are enumerated in the Constitution, and everybody, you can get a free copy of the Constitution and take a look at it. But it does not include welfare. It does not include education. It does not include healthcare. There is no way that there should be a mandate for any kind of medical procedure, abortion, yes or no, or vaccinations. But we need to take back the power from the federal government and give it back to the states where it belongs. Actually, most people don't know that the 10th Amendment in the Bill of Rights, number 10, says anything that we haven't said the federal government can do goes to the states. And we don't have any of that anymore. We need to go with the Convention of States. The Convention of States, which I've signed a pledge that if I am elected, I am going to fight for it with all my heart. And it is the goal of why I'm going. But it basically says we need to have financial responsibility in our federal government. We need to have term limits, and that we need to be able to
the federal overreach.
Oh, yes. We limit the power of the federal government because they're taking power that they're not supposed to have. If that's where I'm at. We've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people over the years. And as Chrissy said, one of the things they always counter with is, oh, well, we could have a runaway convention and they could take away some of our rights. We've got a runaway government that is taking away our rights right now. Let's get together. It's time for patriots to rise up. The federal government has basically buried us in bureaucracy, federal overreach, and abuse of power, spending that is out of control. And they basically buried us. They didn't realize we were seeds. It's time for us to grow. It's time for our patriotic duty, stand up, be courageous, be brave, and tell them no. This is our government. We, the people, are the ones who run this, and take this back.
Yay! Paul Schumacher, District 28.
I'm more worried about the Convention of States. Elect me, don't elect me. Get this done. This needs to be fixed.
All right, so Joseph does our 1776 minutes at the Convention of States meetings here in the Piedmont. And so I'm so glad that he is here tonight to share some of his wisdom and some of his patriotism. And maybe he won't make me cry tonight.
Oh, I hope I do.
Oh, yeah, I do. Did you get a good one tonight? You got a good one?
Well, I'm just going to pull a few thoughts. I didn't do it previously because you didn't tell me I was actually going to do a moment. You just said be here and share, but happy to do it. And here's what I do, folks. I've been looking at the direction our government has been heading since 1980. I graduated high school in 1980, so now you know how old I am. And I noticed back then that what I'm reading in the Constitution and what I see in my government are not the same thing. And the progress of how that has got worse and worse is quite evident. So just because it's the kind of guy I am, I started looking at, well, what did they originally give us? And folks kind of call me a historian. Okay, but what I really did was look at who they were and what they did and the sacrifices they gave and the intent of their hearts. And I realized that they're no different than you and me. Their time was different, but what they had to fight for and the people that they were fighting for that freedom had red coats, and what we have now don't wear red coats, but there isn't a lot of difference. And so when I share these moments, what I'm really showing is the patriots that stand up today are just like the patriots that stood up 243 years ago. The sacrifice and the will that they had to drive to a new and beautiful government is what we have to stand and fight and drive for today. We've got to take this back to what they gave us, or we're going to lose even the possibility of doing that. And Article 5, Convention of States, is using a piece of the Constitution called Article 5, you can look it up, is the leverage that they gave us to do that. When I talk about they, and so here's your 1776 moment, I'm going to go straight to one of the top guys. There are some founding fathers that you could speak forever on and still not cover all of it. They're bigger than life. Some of that you would think is legend, but the deeper you go, the more you realize that they really were that big. And this one's George Washington. It's hard to get bigger than he was. In my perspective, because I'm not a historian, I don't have a lot to talk about in that sense, but this is probably accurate. Folks in our day probably know about John Wayne. John Wayne nurtured his, what people thought of him, their perspective of him. He learned to walk, that characteristic walk that he had, he actually practiced it. The John Wayne cowboy thing, that was his thing, and he practiced it and worked it, and he wanted it. Well, George Washington was a similar way. He was born into what was lower circumstances. He knew that he had to do something to make something of himself, or he was going to be a peasant all of his life. And for them, the biggest way or fastest way to do that was the military. So he studied books, and he studied what it was like to be a man. He studied etiquette. He did the things that would make him what he wanted to be and the way he wanted everyone to perceive him. And he was intent on doing that. So we think of him as a huge leader, and well, he was. And morality and duty, it meant everything to him. But it meant something to him because he had studied since he was barely old enough to read, and his desire to become something drove him to do that. How many young kids today are taught that kind of drive? They're taught how to wiggle a controller and play a video game. They're not taught, if you want to be a man, learn etiquette. If you want to be a man, treat a woman right. It's just such a different world that we have to live in. But George Washington said this. He said, government is not reason. Government is not eloquence. It is force. Like fire, it is troublesome. And it is a troublesome servant and a fearful master. Boy, look at today. Do we have a troublesome servant, a servant that fears the people? Or do we have a fearful master that does not fear the people? We have the latter. If we're going to turn this around, we must make our government fear us instead of us fearing the government, because just like George Washington said, government is force. Now, when you hear the politicians speak, that's not what they say. We can give you health care. We can give you this. For this, you can get that. No, government is force. But the Constitution wrote that the people with the power are you and me. We are the ones with power. But yeah, I think it was Benjamin Franklin said that the citizenry must be, well, I'll look up the quote. It says, it is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. When is the last time you heard that from your senator? Maybe never. It is our responsibility to question authority by the guy who helped write the Declaration of Independence. So that's where you come in. That's where I come in. That's where Chrissy comes in. If we are going to change this, we must stand up against those who believe that they own our government. We own our government, and we have no power to take it back except Article 5. They wrote in the Constitution that we can call, the states can call together, and there's nothing the federal government can do about it. And we can force them to do what we tell them to do by writing amendments into the Constitution. It's the only way without picking up a gun. And I don't really want my son to pick up a gun. Me too, but I've lived most of my life. I don't want my son to have to pick up a gun and shoot at the Marines. That's not a very good idea. But we can take Article 5 and say, you will do what we say you to do because it's in the Constitution that you have to do it. That's my message to you. If you become a volunteer in Convention of States, your voice is the voice that will change history. George Washington did it. Ben Franklin did it. you will do it. It won't be easy. It takes effort. It takes endurance, but they have no power if we tell them that they cannot do it. If we remain silent, they have all the power that they think they have. Now I'm going to pass it on to Roger and Susan, who are the leadership of COS over my district, and I love them dearly. Susan, you go first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you very much. And for those of you who are listening, I think you can tell from each of us that we believe with our whole heart that it is time to do something about this federal government. Expecting them to do something that will reduce their power will not happen. And we have got to use Article 5, which gives the states the power to get them under control. And the longer we wait, the more power they will continue to take. And I would ask for anybody to look at their lives 2 years ago and the power that the federal government has continued to absorb since that time in just 2 years, and it will continue. I wanted just to give you an update or an overview of Convention of States, North Carolina in the Piedmont region, like Roger said. So Guilford County resides in the Piedmont region. It's made up of the counties of Alamance, Guilford, Forsyth, Davie, Davidson, Rowan, Randolph, Rockingham, Yadkin, and some of Surrey counties. And the Piedmont region, we have regular face-to-face meetings, usually once a month, not always, to speak with people face-to-face. And at those meetings, we talk to people who are new with Convention of States, who may be interested in getting involved and to become a volunteer. And then also people that have been members for some time. So it's a combination meeting. And what we do is we answer questions, we give them an update on our COS resolution and where it is in the state of North Carolina, as well as any interesting news that may have happened for the whole country. Occasionally, we will have guest speakers that will inform us on different subjects that people are interested in, such as the United States Constitution. We try to meet at a local restaurant, so we combine dinner with the program, and this allows people to get to know each other some. Once you do sign the Convention of States petition online and you opt in to receive emails, you will start to get information on attending as well as the agenda of our meetings. I can tell you that we're always looking for opportunities to engage citizens in Convention of States. We have volunteers that we're always giving them business cards so that they can hand them out to people as they go about their daily lives. And sometimes those make for very interesting stories when they hand them these business cards. And we're always on the lookout for an event where we can set up a table that has Convention of States information. And we encourage people to get involved at those tables as well as sign the petition. And then probably lastly, the most important things that we do is we do keep abreast of our North Carolina senators and representatives and where they are on support of Convention of States for North Carolina. We speak with them from time to make sure they understand the importance of this resolution and what it means to North Carolina. And with that, I'll pass it on to Roger.
Thank you, Susan. Chrissy wanted me to share how I got involved in the Convention of States and why. And I wanted to just say that about 3 years ago, I saw somewhere, I don't remember where, online and about the petition. And I read it and I agreed with it. And so I signed it because I was frustrated with the government becoming more and more controlling of our lives. And I was convinced that Convention of States in Article 5 is the only way to get government back to the original intent For the People. Shortly afterwards, I received an email from my then district captain, Joseph, here, to invite me and others to a local meeting at someone's house. I went, and I fell in love with about 10 other like-minded patriots who are now my extended family. And then at our second meeting, Joseph asked us to fill out invitations to our North Carolina House representative and to write a note about why we needed him to attend a meeting in Raleigh with the Convention of States CEO, Mark Meckler. Fortunately, he did go because of those 10 people. And to make a long story short, I experienced firsthand how 10 people could make a huge impact. I won't go into any more details about that. But also, I hope I don't offend anybody, but
Roger, I think you should go into details about that.
Well, our House Representative would tell people that he supported Convention of States, and then when it would come time to vote, he would vote against it. And for several years, back in 2017, for example, when it came up. And so when he went to hear Mark Meckler, he waited for Mark to finish. And after he finished, he walked up and got in the back of the line and waited. And when he saw Mark, he pulled out of his coat pocket those 10 envelopes. And he said, "That's why I'm here." So,
And the rest is history.
right. And so that's why he voted for it this last time that it came up. Another thing that I realized is that much of what's going on in our country is just plain evil. And COS is a vehicle to help fight that evil. That's all I have. Chrissy, back to you.
Thank you so much, Roger. All right, so the next person that I met on my journey with COS was Joy. And she is the North Carolina chairperson. Did I say that right? Is that the
State
title?
director is my official title.
Is what?
State director.
Okay. And this is Joy Ruhmann, and she is going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the state. We have an exciting rally that's coming up on June 8th, and we were trying to get this video out so we can kind of promote that a little bit. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll very quickly tell you, I got involved in COS. I went to a networking meeting. I was involved with the group for 3 or 4 years. And a gentleman by the name of Gary Lyons, he was the first legislative liaison, which is a leadership role with COS, was at that meeting. And he and his wife had decided to move to their wannabe retirement community, Greenville, South Carolina. They could continue working there. He could continue working for the company, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the meeting, he told everybody something he'd never told them before. And that was that he was very active in the efforts of Convention of States. And after he told everybody, I walked over to him and I said, I want to know more. And I did that. That was July of 2018. I remember the month because I almost remember the moment that I learned about it, because at that point, I really didn't have any idea how bad things were in our country. I knew that I was sick to death of the press hammering on a president that I didn't even realize the good he had already done in our country at that point. All I knew was that there was such vitriol against one human being, and I didn't understand it. And I just was so fed up with everything. Now I understand it all. I understand the deep state. I understand it all. I didn't know any of that back then. I became a district captain. I became a regional captain. And through the help of a member of the team at the time, Aaron Slomer, most of the people know, I think everybody on this call knows Aaron, I ended up pushing the national organization around the issue of COS was not really working to build the grassroots. And I didn't realize that the way I would push and what it would end up happening was I would end up being state director, because I was asked by the national organization if I would step up, and I did. I put my leadership consulting practice on hold. I did that partly because of the pandemic anyway. And but right now I'm not rebuilding that until something changes in the country. And I just got involved. The people on this call are some of the, I mean, Roger said it, you know, I've met some of the most amazing people all across the state. And this group of people have been, that I'm here with today, have done a remarkable job of building the grassroots in the what we call the Piedmont region in Guilford County, Alamance County. I mean, they are all, and I'm so grateful that I get the chance to work with and lead this group of people. We are, as Chrissy said, working hard on a rally. Our national organization is big time behind us. They have made significant financial investments. We are bringing in our founder, Mark Meckler, Rick Green, the founder of the Patriot Academy and the Biblical Citizenship course that so many people in North Carolina have taken. We're bringing in Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He's our main headliner. And we'll kick off the rally with our speakers with a young man named Jonathan Uskataki, who if you go to his website, you'll see he is an American by choice, a Venezuelan by birth. He's got a powerful message to share. And I've chosen, if the team does decide to support this, we'll talk about it this week to finalize our agenda. I want Jonathan to speak first, because I think Jonathan, what he says will, I believe the remainder of our speakers will refer back to what he has said about our movement and why we're doing what we're trying to do. Those of you all who are listening to this are going to learn a few things that not everybody else knows. We're not sharing all these details. We're going to get a video message directed that's directed to us, been recorded to us, for us, from Pete Hegseth and Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum would have been here with us, but he already had a commitment on June 8th. That's actually, in my mind, that's kind of okay. Rick Santorum is a retired senator who is now a senior advisor with COS, and the fact that he can't come on June 8th may mean that we could bring him back the next week or the next week to meet with some senators if we still haven't passed in the Senate. We passed our resolution. Well, let me finish up with the rally. We've got food trucks coming. We've got T-shirts. Chrissy, if you'll lean up just a little bit, everybody can see her T-shirt, okay? We've got more of those. We have 450 more of those. Last year at our rally in April, we had about 300 people and we gave away all 300 T-shirts. This year, the individual who bought those T-shirts for us has invested a lot of money in other things related to both COS, and he's actually underwriting the cost of a bus coming from a part of the state. So we don't have the resources to actually buy the T-shirts, but we got them for only $5. It was a little over. So we're going to just ask for donations of $5 or more to cover the cost of the shirts. And so it's that beautiful white shirt that she's got on. And I'll tell everybody very quickly that last year we had our rally on April the 21st. And everybody put on their T-shirts when they were there. And at 12:30, our rally last year ran from 10 to 12. And this one's longer because we have a lot more speakers. But last year, about 150 Patriots stayed because there was a House Rules Committee meeting that afternoon at 12:30. And I do not believe in the history, even since then, of this state, there's ever been that many people outside of a committee room when a committee meeting was occurring. And the windows, some committee rooms in the General Assembly have windows along one wall or both walls, two walls, depending on the size of the committee. And I don't know who it was that pushed the sergeant at arms to open the curtains, but we couldn't hear, but we could see that the members of the Rules Committee let out an audible gasp that there were so many of us back there wearing white T-shirts. And we passed the Rules Committee that day. That was April the 21st. We passed in the House on May the 5th. We have been working since May the 5th to get the Senate to support us. We still have really 7 senators. 4 we have to turn in order to get the votes that we need. And I'll name them right now. I often can't come up with the last one. So if I don't come up with all 7, somebody speak up. Bill Rabin, who is the chair of the Rules Committee for the Senate, and a big obstacle for us, is a no, not never vote. He will never vote for COS, according to him. Kathy Harrington is a no, not never, and Tom McGinnis is a no, not never. Vicki Sawyer, out of House District 34. Brent Jackson, I think he's in 12. Excuse me, Senate District 24, Brent Jackson, I think he's in 12. Lisa Barnes, I can't remember hers, might be 11. And see, I did it again. I always forget one person. Can anybody think of who I'm missing? Brent Jackson, Vicki Sawyer. Oh,
You said Kathy Harrington, right?
yeah, she's a no, not never. There's 4 that are, they just won't commit. Here's what they say. Here's what they do. They'll tell you, you'll feel real good when they tell you. They'll say, I'll vote on it if it gets to the floor. But then we understand they go into their caucus meeting, which is a group of the Republicans talking about how they feel about something. And they'll say, look, we don't want to vote for this. We don't want to vote for this. So don't let it come to the floor. I'll share something else because I want everybody to know everything that's going on. Phil Berger has told 2 of our supporters at fundraising events that it's not going to come to the Senate floor because there are these 4 senators who don't want to vote yes, and they don't want to go on record as voting no because we'll primary them. I really would like for somebody, and I need to be sure I tell all the grassroots this, if he ever says that to you again, Phil Berger, you need to look at him and say, Senator Berger, we appreciate that. That's a compliment that we have the power to do that. And the truth of the matter is, if you don't pass it, we're going to work to do that anyway, because we know who the people that aren't for us are. So I want everybody to start having the confidence to be able to say that to him. I would like to think that if I'd heard it from him when Susan was the first one to hear it, that I'd have had the guts to say that. I don't think I would have, but now I would, and I want everybody else to have the guts to say that. Back to the rally. Again, it's just going. We have a couple of fabulous state videographers who are creating some videos to share. We'll have one. The 20 minutes before the event shows, we're going to show scenes from the COS simulation in 2016. We have a grassroots video that I'm collecting photographs for. We've got a deadline of June 3rd to get more grassroots photographs to include in it. And when the event's over, we have another one that is a compilation of COS supporters across the country speaking to their committee meetings in their legislatures in support of COS. So we have just maybe I'll say that the stars are aligned, or more importantly, God is shining, is blessing us deeply through this rally, because it's going to be an amazing event. And intuitively, I think the goal of 1,000 people might be met. The fact that Chrissy's putting this together to help us make this happen, and I had a speaking engagement a couple of weeks ago with about 90 people, and said, look, if every single one of you would be 5 people, that gets us to halfway to our goal. So we want, if we can get that many people, I honestly believe they'll end up passing it, because I do not believe in the history of North Carolina politics there's ever been an organized event that attracted that many people on the conservative side of the aisle. Before the pandemic, the NAACP would attract those kinds of people. I think generally in some cases, they hired people to come to their events. We ain't doing that. These are all patriots taking time off from their jobs, taking time out of their lives to come to Raleigh. If you're listening to this and you're in the Asheville area or the Charlotte area or the Jacksonville area or the Wilmington area, we're organizing buses from those places. Reach out to Chrissy. She can get you to people who can get you on those buses, because this is really, really important to us. We're even, again, just a heads up for everybody, this is something that will be limited to who will attend. We're actually hosting a meet and greet at 9 o'clock the morning of the rally with our national speakers and our 28 Republican senators. So we're hoping that maybe that can be a part of changing their minds if they'll show up. So one more thing around the activity across the country. For as long as I've been involved in COS, I believe, COS had 15 state legislators that have supported the convention, maybe just 2 years. I don't know exactly how long, but I just remember the number 15 all these years. So far in 2022, 4 new states have passed the COS resolution. I heard it said the other day when I asked a key member of the COS staff that we work with a lot. I said, does National have thoughts on when we might get to 34 states? Because that's what we need to go to convention. And his response was 2 or 3 years. I was surprised by that. I would love to see that happen. Would love to see that happen. There's enough problems in Washington coming out right now. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. But as we get closer and closer, we can all expect to hear more and more lies about what we're trying to do from the people on that are opposed to us, mostly on the left, but not all. Some on the right as well. So we all need to stay the course. This is a long-term effort. For those people who are so concerned about the runaway convention, one of the things I try to point out is what we really want to do is start a national dialogue, a formal dialogue about the power of term limits, the power of fiscal restraints, and the power of returning sovereignty back to the states where our founding fathers signed it. So if all we do is have the discussion, we've gone much further than we've ever gone before. So I cannot name for you all the different states that are. I know that Pennsylvania is making a lot of progress, and I think the election fraud there is helping with some of that. And there are other states, but it's even possible Pennsylvania will pass before we will, I've heard. And as one of our supporters said, one of our volunteers said, maybe we'll be 21. And I said, well, that's a winning hand in blackjack. So 21's okay. So I think that's it. If y'all have any questions or anything I have left out, or anybody wants to add something, we'd certainly like to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I will put the links to Convention of States in the description of this video. And then I'll also put it at the end of this video. If you are interested in attending the COS convention, please email me. I'll put that information in the link as well. And I will direct you to wherever you need to go so that you can make a difference with your voice in Raleigh on June 8th. And if you can't make it, please just sign the petition, and a district captain will be in touch with you and try to get you a little bit more involved in your particular area. Did you have anything else to add?
Just another comment. There's been some inclination to think that this is a Republican movement. This is a patriotic movement. There are patriots in both parties, all 3 parties, the liberal, the Republican, the Democrat, and the Libertarians. So this is not. I'm a veteran, and I'm calling on all the veterans. It's time to not back the red party, not back the blue party, but back the red, white, and blue party.
Right.
There you go.
Let's get this done.
Yeah.
Thank you for adding that, Paul, because it is that we are a bipartisan movement. We have found that because we are about reducing the size of the government, that the more conservative folks support us, but there are plenty of Democrats. I read an article today. I think 87% of the population wants fiscal restraint, and 75% of the population, that's bipartisan, wants term limits. So it's a bipartisan issue.
And just if anybody needs the record, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an independent. I did this because it's my country I want to save, not a party.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that one of the reasons that they don't want to sign is because it focuses on term limits. Why would they vote on taking their job away? Wouldn't.
Which one would a politician vote for?
They never will.
They never vote for
term limits? or, you know, okay, we can't spend the money like we want to.
That's
Or
right.
take away their checkbook. Yeah.
Yeah, get foreign aid where they can launder the money and bring it back and put it in their pocket. Yeah, there's lots of little ways they don't want to change that.
That's called letting the fox watch the chicken house.
Right, which is why Article 5 was put in the Constitution.
That's exactly right.
All right, guys, we'll have all your links in the description for COS, also the link for the rally. And I look forward to seeing you there. Bye.
Yes. See you there. Bye.